Is there a connection between your physical health and mental sharpness?
One of the things that robs us of optimal cognitive performance is elevated blood pressure.
I will admit I struggled all the way through medical school, and I questioned many times, Lord, what is happening?
Great to have you joining me for Next Level Health, presented by It Is Written. I'm John Bradshaw, and I'm so glad you're here. You've joined me in time to learn how to improve your mental performance. Now, I'd love to tell you that after this, you're going to qualify to be a member of Mensa. But in reality, what most of us want and need is to be a little sharper. If only we could learn how to fire on all cylinders. That'd be a game changer, wouldn't it? Later in this series, you're going to learn how to increase your energy. That's next time. You'll learn how to enjoy better nutrition. You'll discover how you can take your fitness to the next level. And as usual, this is going to be medically and scientifically reliable. And all of this matters spiritually, because God expressed in the Bible that He wishes above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. I'll be speaking a little later with Dr. David DeRose, a physician who has made improving your mental performance a special focus of his study and practice for many years. Cassidy Conley is going to find out what everyday people do to keep themselves mentally sharp. Eric Flickinger is going to investigate studies that connect physical health to mental sharpness. And right now, Katie Castillo is going to talk with a remarkable person who took on the challenge of going to medical school later in life than most. And, well, here's Katie with Dr. Rhonda Rushton and her inspiring story.
So I know you were in the Navy. Did it ever occur to you that you would become a doctor?
Actually, no. When I was in the Navy, my intent was to stay in the military, become a military officer, and to make a career of it. During that time, I became a Christian, and it became more challenging for me to uphold God's principles while being in the military. So I shifted focus to more of a missionary training, which eventually led me to being able to work with physicians and nurses and pursue a career in medicine. Interestingly enough, I never did any medicine in the military. All of this changed as I began to do some missionary training with physicians and nurses. And I feel like that was the epiphany, so to speak, and when God began to dramatically change the direction of my career.
Your experience in medical school, was that, or just before that, is that something that came very easy to you, or was it like more of a challenge? Tell me a little bit more about that.
I can say this, there were just a couple of us who were considered non-traditional medical students. We were the older medical students, and the likelihood of us completing our course was next to none. And I will admit, I struggled all the way through medical school, and I questioned many times, Lord, what is happening? Is this what you really want me to do? And then, God would turn up and He'd help me get through this phase and that phase. And I remember so many times when I would, meet with some of the academic professors in medical school, so many times I told them, I said, I really think I should go home. I really think we should stop this now. And they said, no, you work too hard to get where you are. And it would be a shame to turn back now. You need to finish this course. Many of them, I'm still in touch with, and they let me know, you see, we knew God had a plan for you. And I was the least likely to succeed, but God never gave up on me. And by His grace, He helped me not to give up on His plan for my life.
What do you think helped in your success?
Number one, keeping a devotional life. Communion with God is critical. I love that text in Proverbs chapter 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart, not leaning on what you think and how you feel, but trusting in Him all the way and submitting your plans to Him. And that's what I did. I submitted my plans to the Lord, and He fulfilled His promise to guide and direct. If we acknowledge Him in all our ways, He will direct our steps. So something that was beneficial in my journey was a healthy lifestyle. I ate vegetarian foods. I had the balance between study and exercise. Understand the average medical student can spend 8 to 14 hours a day studying. So this is not very balanced. So my classmates and I, we made it our business to get to the gym. We went hiking. We did things out in nature just to have a balanced lifestyle, getting plenty of rest, exercise, drinking plenty of water. This was very helpful during, especially sitting in the classroom setting.
What piece of advice would you give, to a student or someone that has, a set of goals that they want to achieve?
Be flexible and be open for change. I've met so many people that have this sort of agenda. This is what they want to do, and they just want God's signature, not His guidance, His signature. And there's a difference there. When you want God's guidance, you're open to whatever He has, and you're allowing Him to lead. I had to pull back several times in my career to reassess whether or not this was me leading or was God still leading. And you will have those moments in your experience. Well, that will happen. But don't get discouraged. Just seek the Lord, reassess, and make sure you're still on track with Him.
Is there anything else you would like to add or share?
I would say, once you, know what it is God has called you to do, whether it's medicine or law or nursing, whatever it is, when you become successful, don't forget God. The natural tendency is to feel we did something and we got there on our own strength. And we know that's not true. And I've seen a number of folks who are very, very successful. And what are you doing for God now? He gave all for you. What are you doing for God? And I keep that in mind too. I'm reflecting on, now that I'm finished, how can I give back? So don't forget the Lord and don't forget to give back.
Katie, what an inspiring story. What did you take away from that conversation?
Well, I found her story to be very, very powerful. Throughout the interview, Dr. Rushton mentioned that God always sent people her way. And through conversations, God was speaking to her. And I realized that God was speaking to me through her during the interview. I got a lot of reality checks, and I learned about the importance of being flexible and open to plans changing. It's good to have plans, have goals, and have a vision, but trusting God is very, very important.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks so much. All right, it's time to hear from Cassidy Conley, or more to the point, from the people Cassidy has been speaking to. She's been asking folks what they do to keep themselves mentally sharp.
Do you do anything to keep yourself mentally sharp?
I read a lot. So that's basically it. I use my brain when I'm working every day.
Things to sharpen my motor skills, like play violin, Rubik's cubes.
I read a lot. I like to read the Bible.
Not probably as much as I should. I read. Sometimes I do visual arts and stuff, but that's pretty much it.
Read puzzles, play different musical instruments.
I read a little bit. It's just mostly working with my girls with their schoolwork, and I'm finding that 5th grade math was a lot harder than I thought it was back in the 5th grade.
Try to keep learning as much as I can.
So I do a lot of meditation. That's very important. I also do a lot of journaling, a lot of me time. That's very important to me, honestly.
Mentally sharp, so I do read a lot. Well, I won't say a lot, but I at least try to get through maybe 7 books a year.
Yeah. I see a psychiatrist. Yeah.
Mentally sharp. I mean, does having Sudoku on your phone count?
Eric Flickinger joins me now on Next Level Health. Eric, thanks for being here.
Good to be back again.
And you're going to tell us about the connection, should there be one, between physical well-being and mental acuity. What is that connection?
A great question. Is there a connection between your physical health and mental sharpness? A growing number of studies seems to indicate that there is. According to the May 2013 issue of the Harvard Men's Health Watch, exercise turns out to be an excellent way to protect and enhance your brain health. Dr. John Rady, Associate Clinical Professor of Psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, says there's a lot you can do to prevent cognitive decline or slow it down or recover memory function that you might feel you've lost. One approach that has helped many people is regular, moderately intense exercise. Moderately intense exercise would be something like brisk walking or swimming, or anything else that gets your blood moving, like yard work or housework. This moderately intense exercise helps maintain healthy weight and blood pressure, lifts your mood, lowers stress and anxiety, improves your energy, and keeps your heart healthy, all of which contribute to good brain health. As your heart rate increases, it sends more blood and oxygen to your brain. Another benefit of regular exercise is that it stimulates the brain regions that are involved in memory function to release a chemical known as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF connects memory circuits so they work better. Dr. Rady states, when you exercise and move around, you are using more brain cells. Using more brain cells turns on genes to make more BDNF. Unfortunately, BDNF is not available in a pill. Only the brain can make it, and it only makes it with regular exercise. Ideally, a person should get around 30 minutes of moderately intense exercise 5 days a week. Your heart rate should ideally be around 70% of your maximum. Your maximum heart rate is roughly 220 minus your age. So for somebody who's 35, it's somewhere between 93 and 130 beats per minute. Age 50, 85 to 119 beats per minute, and age 65, 78 to 109 beats per minute. Exercising for any amount of time is good for you, but it probably won't affect your BDNF unless you're reaching the recommended amount. Some guidelines to help you get more exercise are: exercise with other people. You'll enjoy the social interaction and you'll feel more motivated to keep it up. Exercise outside. You'll reap the benefits of fresh air and being outside in nature. Exercise in a way that's fun. If you're enjoying your exercise, you'll be more likely to keep it up. Some other things you can do to take care of your cognitive health include getting recommended health screenings, managing chronic health problems like diabetes, high blood pressure, depression, and high cholesterol. Talk with your doctor about the possible side effects of medication you're taking. Reduce your risk of brain injuries due to falls and other accidents. Quit drinking alcohol. Some medicines can be dangerous when mixed with alcohol. Quit smoking or using other nicotine-containing products. Get enough sleep. And eat healthy foods. More and more studies are linking your physical health with your cognitive health. And by taking some simple steps, you can help keep your brain working at its peak capacity.
Eric, excellent. Thank you. So what the good doctor is telling us is that it's possible to arrest and even reverse cognitive decline.
That's what things are showing.
Fantastic. That gives people a lot of hope. I hope it gives you some hope as well. In just a moment, I'll be back with Dr. David DeRose.
More and more people are watching It Is Written TV. They're watching their favorite It Is Written programs, listening to inspiring sermon series, and much more. They're watching them here, and even here. See for yourself why people are turning to It Is Written TV to watch their favorite Christian programs live and on demand. Watch It Is Written TV for free anytime on Roku, Apple TV, and at itiswritten.tv.
Welcome back to Next Level Health. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to introduce to you my very special guest. He is a physician, a pastor. He is the author of numerous books, including 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. It's a life-changing book. And The Methuselah Factor. Learn how to live sharper, leaner, longer, and better in 30 days or less. He is Dr. David DeRose from Compass Health Consulting. He joins us now from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Dr. DeRose, thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be with you, John.
David, are there simple things people can do to improve their mental sharpness?
Well, John, since you singled out a couple of my books, let me just tell one thing that's going to make a difference for 90% of the people watching this, because the data suggests that if you don't have high blood pressure today, 9 out of 10 of us will have high blood pressure in the future. And one of the things that robs us of optimal cognitive performance is elevated blood pressure. So anything we can do to optimize blood pressure is going to put us in the correct lane as far as better mental health.
Now, what kind of lifestyle changes? What sort of simple things can people do to improve their mental performance?
There's a number of them, John. We're tying this in as far as the circulatory system, as far as blood pressure, and as far as other things that have beneficial effects on the brain. Let's highlight physical activity. a lifetime program of regular physical activity is powerful. Let me make it real simple, John. Two of the things that undermine optimal mental performance is either anxiety or kind of what some people think of as the flip side of it, depression. Physical activity tends to bring us down if we're overstimulated. It tends to bring us up if we are leaning toward that depression end of the spectrum. So physical activity, a number of benefits. Those are just two of them.
What's the physiology of it, Dr. DeRose? Why is it that physical activity has these very marked and significant results?
Well, physical activity is so interesting, John, for a number of reasons. One, we highlight this in the Methuselah Factor book. It is really necessary for optimal microcirculation. And one of the things that the brain, like any other organ in the body, needs is it needs to get good blood supply in the smallest of the blood vessels, the tiny capillaries. So physical activity is one of those things that helps ensure optimal circulatory health, but it also balances our nervous system, especially what we call the autonomic or unconscious nervous system. Exercise has a powerful modulating effect on that really is powerful, especially in our overstimulated environments.
So are there any overarching themes or sort of integrating ideas that pull this together for a person?
Well, John, one of my favorites is what I call the Methuselah Factor, and that is focused on optimizing circulatory health. And when we put out that book a couple of years ago, people started to apply these things as you highlighted in the subtitle. We're talking about things that help people function better mentally as well as physically. And if we can improve that microcirculation, it's key. And that takes in diet, it takes in physical activity, it takes in the spiritual dimensions of our natures, it takes in the social aspect. All of these things really have a role in improving the microcirculation, and that is critical to having optimal mental performance.
So why is it? I hope I'm not asking you to repeat yourself. Maybe I am. What is it about optimal circulation? Now, the doctor's going to tell you to get your blood pressure down, to take a walk, this, that. I don't hear too many physicians saying, hey, circulation is the thing. Let's zero in on that. So talk to me about that in particular. Why you're zeroing in on circulation?
Well, let me give you an example. Years ago, they looked at individuals who had impaired circulatory flow to their brains. Okay, so they have narrowing of the arteries to their brain. And they noticed something interesting. When their triglycerides went up, a blood fat, their mental performance measurably suffered. Similarly, we've seen the same thing with people who have poor blood fluidity. By measurement, do cognitive tests, do testing on how well their brain functions, and we find that if their blood is not as fluid, they're not performing as well. You say, well, why would this be? It's because presumably they're not getting enough oxygen to their tissues. If your blood is not flowing smoothly in those tiny capillaries, you can't nourish the cells of the brain. Similarly, you can't remove the wastes as optimally. So it really all boils down, at least on one level. I don't want to say this is the whole issue, John, but one of these overarching themes has to do with the microcirculation. And there are whole journals that are devoted to the science that we call hemorrheology. That's what it's called in medical circles. Whole societies that are focused on this, not just for mental performance, but also for physical performance and overall health.
What I like about this focus is I think you're encouraging us to think about cause and effect. There are things that go on inside the body, understand the system, understanding how you can get that system to work better. So before I eat, drink, sit around all day, or take a walk, perhaps, I'm thinking of making that work better. So I like that very much. Now, maybe somebody is thinking, oh, then if I just take aspirin, my blood is nice and thin and it'll flow just like it should. Is that a solution?
Well, I'll tell you, it is so difficult to come up with language to talk about blood fluidity, because I'm guilty of this as anyone. We talk about, quote, thinning the blood, but when we use that term, we're really talking about a whole hodgepodge of things. Aspirin, for example, works on the platelets, which are clotting cells. Some of these other blood thinners work on vitamin K dependent factors. People might have been taking warfarin or heard of Coumadin or warfarin. That's how that works. What I'm getting at, John, is there's no medication that really optimizes blood fluidity as safely and effectively as a comprehensive lifestyle program. Now, I'm not saying that someone with atrial fibrillation should stop their blood thinning drugs and just get on a lifestyle program. I mean, there are certain needs where people need to be on prescription medications. That's the best science that we have today. But what I'm saying is if you're looking at optimizing your mental performance, don't sneak into grandpa's blood thinners and think that's going to be the solution for you.
I heard somebody say, might have even been you, because we've discussed on a number of occasions, that essentially all drugs have side effects of one kind or another. And I think it's fair to say every last one. Not to say they're all bad. Of course, many do a great amount of good. I've also heard people talk about the positive side effects of switching around a lifestyle. What are some of those positive side effects?
Well, this is such a great topic to discuss this on because we're talking about microcirculation. So what about nutrition? Nutrition is huge. And one of the things that helps to optimize blood fluidity and also help the health of the cell membranes, which is where all the neurotransmitters are interacting, is actually dietary. It's choosing those plant foods, those foods that avoid the saturated fats that make membranes more rigid. Here's where I'm going with this, John, in answer to your question. Not only when I'm eating more fruits and grains and nuts and seeds, not only am I helping my blood fluidity, I'm helping my cell membranes be more fluid. That helps the neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin work better. And on top of that, it's also inducing a healthier microbiome in my gut. And we're learning today that those healthy germs, if you will, in our guts actually have a profound mental health influence as well. All of those things are fostered by the same kind of diet that keeps my blood optimally fluid.
Which means then, right, that there are some people sitting down to eat, lots of us, we're putting foods into our body that are actually fundamentally harming the way the body functions. So let's talk about, maybe this might be my last question for you. Give me 2 or 3 or 4 foods we can consume, maybe something we could drink, I don't know. What are the sorts of things we ought to be looking at putting in ourselves?
One of the things that I continuously recommend is eating more beans. So beans are especially powerful. They tend to help us with how we deal with sugar in the body. They tend to stabilize blood sugar levels. Fluctuations in blood sugar can affect brain performance. Blood sugar fluctuations actually also lie at the root of complications affecting a host of things throughout the body. Beans also have satiety enhancing effects. So it helps us to be less likely to be looking for snacks. And often those snacks are some of the things we shouldn't be eating. As far as beverages, John, number 1 beverage for mental performance is just pure water.
Absolutely. Hey, that's great. Very practical, useful. We can get our arms around this. Dr. David DeRose from Compass Health Consulting, thank you very much. Great having you on Next Level Health.
Always good to be with you, John.
Let me remind you of these 2 very good books, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. That's by Dr. David DeRose and others. And The Methuselah Factor. Learn how to live sharper, leaner, longer, and better in 30 days or less. To get them, to find out more about them, visit us, nextlevelhealth.life. You got that dot part right. Nextlevelhealth.life. Click on resources, and you can find out about these books and many other resources besides. You know that at It Is Written, we are serious about studying the Word of God, and we encourage you to be serious as well. Well, here's what you do if you want to dig deeper into God's Word. Go to itiswritten.study for the It Is Written Bible Study Guides online. 25 in-depth Bible studies that will take you through the major teachings of the Bible. You'll be blessed, and it's something you'll want to tell others about as well. Itiswritten.study. Go further. Itiswritten.study. According to an Irish neuroscientist, you have a superpower. Dr. Shane O'Mara from Trinity College in Dublin says there's something that makes you healthier, happier, and smarter, and he has the data to prove it. He says that those who move the least manifest positive traits in the lowest measure, but that walkers have lower rates of depression. He calls walking a superpower. He says if you keep your walking speed up to about 3 miles an hour for 30 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week, it does you all kinds of good. In a story published by The Guardian in Great Britain, Dr. O'Mara said that essential brain-nourishing molecules are produced by aerobically demanding activity. Levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, go up. which Dr. O'Mara describes as a molecular fertilizer produced within the brain, increasing resilience to aging and resilience to damage caused by trauma or infection. Then there's vascular endothelial growth factor, VEGF, which helps to grow the network of blood vessels carrying oxygen and nutrients to brain cells. That's what walking does. It makes you sharper, as Eric Flickinger reported earlier. Moderate exercise sends more blood to your brain, and that exercise is an excellent way to enhance and protect brain health. We heard a few minutes ago there's a lot you can do to prevent cognitive decline or slow it down, or even recover memory function you might have lost. Exercise protects you and can help you turn back the clock. BDNF can only be made by the brain and only through moderate exercise, which leads us to what Dr. DeRoe said. Getting your circulation optimized leads to much better health. Hemorrheology, blood fluidity is important, and there are things we can do to improve it or impair it. Emphasizing this thing called cause and effect. If we make better decisions, thinking about the consequences of our actions, our outcomes are going to be a lot better. But what about your spiritual health? How can you improve your spiritual sharpness, your receptivity to God, your responsiveness to spiritual realities? The story is found in 1 Kings chapter 3, where God told Solomon he would give Solomon whatever Solomon asked for. Solomon didn't ask for riches or power, but for an understanding heart. So God gave Solomon a wise and an understanding heart. Wisdom, it came from God as a gift. In the book of Proverbs, it says that God gives wisdom. And then in Proverbs 9 and verse 10, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. If you want to really be receptive to what is most important, draw close to God. James wrote that if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it'll be given him. James 1:5. While David said in Psalm 119, you, through your commandments, make me wiser than my enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for your testimonies are my meditation. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep your precepts. The Bible will connect you with the source of all wisdom. That's God. As you pray, you'll connect with God and become attuned to his voice. One of the big questions I've been asked is, how can I know God's will on a certain thing? Well, as James wrote, if you draw near to God, he'll draw near to you. And you do that through prayer and reading the Bible. You might remember what it used to sound like when the radio was slightly off the station, not quite tuned into the frequency, that static sound you'd hear. If you tune in, get on the same frequency as God, you'll hear his voice and you'll know his will. And that's really what you want. Remember, there's a God who created the universe, a mighty God who called planets into existence, a loving God who wants the very best for you in this world and in the world to come. Remember that, and then get God's word into your mind. You'll experience a spiritual sharpness like you've never known before. Take your spiritual life to the next level. Let the God who made you fill you with his presence and prepare you for the world to come. Thanks for joining us. Next time, increase your energy. You don't want to miss it. We're getting more out of life with Next Level Health. Brought to you by It Is Written.